Rescue the Fosters is about changing the foster system. We want to ensure every child has a safe environment to grow and become healthy, successful adults.
Additionally, when I was in the foster care system, I had to defend for myself. Rescue the Foster is here to empower the youth aging out of the system and offer resources to ensure they are not dependent on the government.
What we observed was that children become institutionalized and end up in prison and providing the government with more funds.
Rescue the Foster will provide coaching, resume writing, interview skills, professional attire for interviews, budgeting, applying for college, and obtaining housing.
We want these youth to live the most freeing, successful life possible.
It is their right and our responsibility to ensure that our future kids and grandchildren can live happy lives.
Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord.
Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future.
Hi, my name is Rachel Bruno, the founder of Giver of Light. I want to be the first to welcome you to our website and explain to you what this organization is all about. This cause is very near and dear to my heart because it nearly destroyed my family in 2015. Both my children were seized by Child Protective Services because my infant son was critically injured while in the care of his nanny. Within a matter of 12 hours, both my children became wards of the state. My family and I were thrust into this legal landscape that we had no idea what was going on. I was court-ordered to leave my home. I was court-ordered to take child abuse classes, parenting classes, and individual counseling. And it was in that child abuse class that I realized I was not alone. There are thousands of families in the United States of America currently fighting this system with little to no support or resources, which is why Giver of Light was born. Our mission is to empower families with knowledge, to provide consistent support through advocacy, and to provide legal recourse so that families know what their rights are and how they can fight to get their children back. Together, as an organization and with your support, we can cultivate a community that helps families stay together. We believe that the family was created by God and that every family should have the right to strive to raise their children according to their values and to their faith with minimal government interference. If you are ready to join our movement, please subscribe to our newsletter so that you can stay in touch, and also hit that donate button, which will help tremendously in the services that we are trying to provide to these families. Thank you once again. We are a Giver of Light.
Good evening and welcome to Rescue the Fosters. I am Gino, your host, and as always, right next to me, the co-founder and co-host of Rescue the Fosters, Sylvia Beachy. Sylvia, how are you?
I'm good, Gino. How are you? Is
I'm
it
doing
is
good.
it feeling like summer?
Oh yeah,
And
it is finally. Oh gosh, we had a horrible spring. Let me just tell you. I mean, I don't think we were hitting more than 50 or 55 degrees for a long stretch, and it was just rain and ugly, and it was miserable. But the last 4 days have been beautiful, 75, 80 degrees, and the next week's supposed to be exactly the same. So hopefully, please, Lord, summer has finally arrived. I am not a cold person. I'm just can't stand it anymore. As the older I get, I think I keep getting more grouchy. I got to stop that. What was that movie, Grumpy Old Men?
yes,
It's a one.
yeah,
I can't become the grumpy old guy. I can't do that.
no.
Oh boy. We always start off with a little levity, don't we, Sylvia?
Yes, and yeah, and I
It's
know it's been really cold, and you're finally coming out of the cold, so I'm happy
Y-
for you.
Thank you. Thank you. The prayers have been answered. No, folks, some people I know may be watching are like, well, gosh, they're not serious right now or whatever. Well, you have to laugh sometimes. Like the stuff that we deal with and we see and we read all the time, it can be very, very depressing. I mean, it can really bring you down because it's dark stuff. The devil's real. Spiritual warfare is real. That's easy for me to say. And so, we're up against it. So you have to laugh sometimes, right? And we have the joy of the Lord in us. So, that's our strength. Anyway, with all that being said, I feel like I always got to do a disclaimer at the beginning of the show.
Yeah,
Last week I said something about fighting, and I was worried that people were going to say that, oh my gosh, he's saying we need to fight. And no, we don't promote violence here at Rescue the Fosters. So anyway, Sylvia, without further ado, can you please introduce our returning guest?
Yes, I would love to. Rachel Bruno is a good friend of mine, and I just love that she's out there helping people. So Rachel Bruno is a writer and speaker, advocate for families navigating DCS investigations in family court. She's the founder of nonprofit Giver of Life, and we just need more people like her in the world. So thank you so much for being here with us, Rachel.
Of course. Love being here with you guys.
Yeah, it's actually Giver of Light. Yeah, you said
Giver
life
of
on
Light.
on accident. Yeah, life on accident. Yeah, but
Oh,
we know
I'm
what
sorry.
you meant.
Well, she is. Maybe she's the giver of life.
That's Jesus.
Jesus would be the. I'm pretty sure he owns that position.
Yes.
But, oh my gosh, that's funny. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us again on
course.
on what is going on? I can't even speak. I almost said Back to the Future. I don't even know what that means. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, Rescue the Fosters. Thank you again, Rachel. I just before the show started, I was saying, you were one of the, probably the first 3 interviews maybe we did ever, maybe the first person. I can't remember. I'd have to go back through the archives and look. But I remember, I was kind of naive to all this stuff and still trying to figure out what the heck was going on and how did I get involved in this. And I remember you were telling your story and you said that your lawyer had said, you had mentioned like, well, I have the Constitution, I'm paraphrasing. And your lawyer says, oh, they don't use the Constitution here in the family court. And I was just like, I had this like deer in the headlights look in my eyes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what? Like that can't be true. And, fast forward almost 4 years and it's like, we hear it all the time. And now I just think, the Constitution, I always say it's the doormat in front of the court. Like that's what they use it for. Wipe your feet on and then come on in. We don't use that thing here. So,
Yeah.
but that's one of the fondest memories I have of when we started. So anyway, all that being said, thanks for being here. And how are you?
I'm good, man. Busy. Like you said, it's been 4 years since you guys started this. I mean, it's been 11 years
Wow.
since this case started.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's 2015 then.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. My son just turned 11, right? And he was 7 weeks old when this all happened.
unbelievable. And if hopefully the folks saw the opening video there, it kind of tells a little bit of your story. Just
Yeah,
heartbreaking, like all these stories are, and unnecessary. I
right.
mean, it's just, they take it to the nth degree and just
Yeah,
drag you through the mud. And then, they try to disparage the parents and make you feel like you're not worth having children. And they just do terrible things. These are evil and wicked people.
yeah.
But tonight's show is to bring hope, and Rachel's got some things brewing and some ideas, and we love the advocacy groups that are, gosh, there's so many now that are working on these things, and sounds like you have a plan, Rachel. Let's start with what you were just telling me. Sylvia didn't get to hear this yet,
No.
but I'm really excited about this. So let's start on a high note right now,
Yeah.
where you have some plans and things going.
Yeah. So, I've done a gazillion podcasts. I have my own nonprofit. I've gone to DC, with a group of advocates many times. And in one of these podcasts, somebody in Washington, DC reached out to me and invited me to the Anti-Human Trafficking Summit by CPAC and introduced me to their director. And I gave him my book, I gave him the story, and we gathered basically a bunch of like-minded people. And we're like, we really need to start a coalition because there are many advocate groups, there's many individual advocates, we're all doing our thing, but there's power in numbers,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think most of us all agree that our main message is family integrity, right? Like removal should be the last option possible. We should do everything in our power to keep these families together, even when it's not with the parents. It should be with the grandparents. It should be with an aunt and uncle. It should be with a cousin. I mean, anything to maintain that family integrity. So we started working back in October last year on something called the National Coalition for Family Integrity, where we plan on having members. So Rescue the Fosters, Giver of Light, You Are the Power. I mean, all these other organizations that are out there come under the umbrella of this national coalition where we can provide, webinars, we can provide the advocacy framework, we can provide all the contacts with the legislators that we have, we can promote the bills that you have in your state, or you have a case that needs a certain bill, you have, whatever information you have. We are the umbrella under which all these organizations can come through, and we will head to DC. We will have like the machine running basically, right? And you can continue to do all your individual stuff, because there is plenty to do at the ground level. But somehow we need to reach those people up there, and this is how we do it.
I love it. What do you think, Sylvia?
Oh, I love that idea. And you know what? Advocates have been coming together. I'm in quite a few different groups. There are a lot of advocates now. When I first started speaking out, nobody was talking about this. Everyone is taboo to talk about. And, there is a lot of drama, of course, when you have people and saying, I don't know about this person, I don't know about that one, but I think we're putting the differences aside and the rumors and coming together, because that's what we have to do. Like you said, with numbers, we have got to just fight for children. That should be the main goal, and don't worry about anything else. And it is good to see all these different advocates coming together, even if they don't agree with each other, and fighting for families, because that's really what they've gone after, is the family unit.
Absolutely. I mean, as you know, there's so many different spokes, right, to this category of child welfare.
Right.
From substance abuse to domestic violence to medical kidnapping to, you go crazy if you're going to try to do it all.
Yes.
So it's good that we have the individuals that are focused on these certain things, but at the same time, we can come together and tackle, bigger legislation that will ultimately affect the entire system.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that idea. And you're perfect to be, speaking with DC, and you've already been there quite a few times. And, the fact that you have a story, like I was not affected by CPS. Gino is not affected by CPS, but you personally were.
Yeah.
And that does matter.
Yeah, I think that first person, plays a big part, because they see that it's genuine. I'm someone on the outside. Thank God, I haven't had to deal with any of this stuff personally, but it affects me mentally. It affects me emotionally, because, we're talking to a lot of people, and you just hear horrible things. And it needs to stop. And gosh, it's so awesome, Rachel, that you're doing this, because it needed to be spearheaded. I mean, I know we've talked about this in the past, me and Sylvia have, and even when I was working with a couple other people before, I remember just saying, like, there has to be some way to organize this thing. And, Sylvia, pre-show, we were talking about, even like grifters coming in and trying to vet people. And we've dealt with our fair share of things like, and it's just good that they're going to have Rachel's going to have the proper vetting system. They're going to know the people that are coming in. You're going to have just very responsible people that are going to stay in their lane, stick with their talents and gifts that God has given them. But yet we have one goal in mind. And, I think of like the military, for instance, right? You have different sects of the military. You have Air Force, Navy, Marines, Army. And that's kind of what this is. You're going to have boots on the ground. You're going to have people that are, kind of, maybe they're just some prayer warriors out there. They're covering us in prayer, right? And you've got all these different aspects in between of needed responsibility from people that are willing to do the work, whatever their capabilities are, and to have it mobilized and organized. And then you go to DC with all that behind you, the weight of that, that's incredible.
Yeah, no, it's going to be awesome. Looking forward to it. And one way to kind of rule out the grifters, it will be like membership based, and we do have tiers of memberships, where you will pay to become an active participant. And, most people that are grifters aren't really serious about this, are not going to want to do that.
No, they're not going to pay. They're going to have someone else pay for them.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what usually happens. Oh man. So Rachel, let's go back to your story and how this all began. I know you spoke a little bit about it in the video, and it doesn't have to be the details, but
Yeah.
just so the folks know who Rachel Bruno is if they don't know who you are, and how you got involved in this from the beginning.
Yeah. So basically, both my children in 2015 were seized by Child Protective Services because my 7-week-old baby suffered a critical injury in the care of his nanny. Now, I have epilepsy, I have seizures. That's why I had a nanny overnight. And I just woke up to my baby screaming at about 4 o'clock in the morning. She showed me an empty bottle and she said, I just fed him. He's really gassy. So I'm like, okay, fair enough. 7-week-old baby, newborn, they get gassy. I let her go home that day, go home early. And I was home alone with my 20-month-old son at the time and the 7-week-old baby. My husband was on a business trip out of state. And this kid would not stop crying. And like, it was just nonstop crying and screaming. He wouldn't nurse. I couldn't lay him down. I'm like, what the heck is wrong with this kid? I called the pediatrician. They say he's not available until 4 o'clock that afternoon. And I'm like, this kid's been screaming since 4 o'clock in the morning. I need to see somebody. And she's like, okay, then take him to the emergency room. So hop in the car. I call my mom to come with me, my 20-month son with me, my 20-month-old son and the baby. And of course, as soon as you start driving, the baby falls asleep. And I'm on my way to the emergency room. And I'm like, great, overreactive mom going to the emergency room. But I get there, he's sleeping. Tell the people up front his symptoms, why we're there. They did go see us right away and took all the vitals. Everything was fine. To me, he seemed like he was sleeping. The doctor told me to lay him on the bed and walked away. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to tell me to give the kid Benadryl and go home. But he stopped at the doorway about 10 feet and he was just staring at my son, laser focused on my son on that bed. And there were about 5 nurses in there. And everybody is silent. And I'm like, this is weird. What is going on? He stands there for probably about a minute and he walks back towards the bed. He goes straight to my son's head right behind his ear. And he says, did you feel this? He said, no. So he grabs my fingers, puts them there. He's like, you feel the bulge? I'm like, yeah. He says, that's fluid that's leaking from your son's brain. And when he says that, like all those nurses plus another 5 rush into that room, raise up the rails. I'm holding the baby and they are running down the hallway to get a CT scan. And I'm like, what just happened? What is going on? And as we're going down, his right arm starts twitching. And those nurses really bolt. And that's when I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, left side of the brain, right arm twitching, he's having a seizure. First thing that comes to my mind is it's genetic, I gave it to him. Right? I say a little prayer right there. I'm like, Lord, please spare my son from having to live with this like I did. He goes into the room. I wait outside. The results come back. And the ER doctors, like, Miss Bruno, this is very serious. The fluid that's leaking from your son's brain is blood. The brain hates blood. He has a cranial fracture, an intracerebral blood hemorrhage. We have to go do emergency surgery right now. So I went from gassy baby to now my son is going to the operating room for emergency brain surgery. They're handing me all the liabilities. Are you against blood transfusions? I'm like, I don't care what you have to do to save my baby, save my baby. And off they go, right? And I'm there texting my husband, who's on a business trip. I'm like, I'm at the hospital. He's going to brain surgery, texting my family in Brazil. Everybody just pray. But I had no idea, like never did it cross my mind that this could have been something malicious, that this could have been something on purpose. My mind was nowhere near that. All right, so surgery happens. 4 hours later, neurosurgeon comes back, says that he's stable. My first question, is he going to be okay? Is he going to be brain damaged? And he says, we don't know whether he's going to survive the next 48 hours. Okay, he got 3 bags of blood during the surgery. He was having about 15 seizures an hour following the surgery. So we have him in a medically induced coma right now until we can figure out the right cocktail to control the seizures. But he's stable. I will take you up to his room. So again, I'm just getting all this information. My mind is solely focused on my son. And I see my baby seemingly lifeless, the machines beeping everywhere, the tubes coming out of every orifice, gauze wrapped over everything. and, grab his hand. It doesn't have that reflex that they hold your hand. And again, I pray again. I'm like, God, I don't care if I have to dedicate the rest of my life to taking care of my son, I will. I just don't take him away from me. And at that point, not here, but if you're a Christian, you feel it. The Holy Spirit told me, he's mine. I gave him to you. Nobody's going to take him away from you. And I said, you're right, Lord. He's yours. No better place for him to be than in your hands. And at that point, just the peace that surpasses all understanding. I knew he was going to be okay. Then I go into logistics mode. I have my 20-month-old son in the hospital room bouncing off the walls. My mom is there. My husband is on his way from the airport. Call my friends, get my 20-month-old son, who was going to go sleep at my mom's house. Gave him a kiss. I'm like, I'll see you tomorrow. Right? Go sleep at grandma's house. So he's gone. Tell my husband, coming straight from the airport to the hospital. Next thing I hear is a knock on that glass door in the hospital. And I look up and it's a man in a uniform and a lady with a clipboard. And they slide the door open. They say, Miss Bruno, can we speak to you? I said, yes. In my head, I'm like, what is a police officer doing here? But still had no idea. And he said, what happened to your son was worse than getting struck in the head by a bullet. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? He's like, we want to help you. Will you help us figure out how this happened to your son? So in my mind, obviously it was the nanny, right? And a bullet to the head. I'm like, are you insinuating that this woman tried to kill my son? Because what would a bullet to the head do?
Mm-hmm.
So, that's what my mind was at. I'm like, but sure, come on in, I'll tell you everything I know. And they kept asking me, what do you think happened? I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't there. Why did you wait so long to bring him to the hospital? I'm like, because she told me he was gassy. Why didn't you call 911? Because I thought he was gassy. Why did you bring him to a hospital in this county when you live in that county? Because this is the children's hospital that I know. And then the social worker is there. Do you have any other children? I think I do. What are their ages? What are their names? Tell them. And she says, is it okay if we go see him? And I'm thinking, okay, these people are here to help me. Nothing to hide, right? Like, yeah, go ahead. Call my mom, like she's on her way. And I said, he's probably sleeping. And she said, we're not going to wake him. We just want to make sure he's okay. So she leaves at that point. Police officer stays with me, asking where my husband is. He said he's on his way. And as soon as my husband gets to that hospital, police officer grabs him, takes him to the other room, and tells me the detectives are on their way. They would like to speak to you. Are you able to speak to the detectives? I'm like, sure. So they put me in another room and closed the door. Now, this all started right 4 a.m. By now, it's about 10 p.m. And the detectives don't show up until midnight. They interview me until 2 o'clock in the morning, where I'm the one who says, I really should go to sleep right now. And in the meantime, in the background, all this stuff was going on that I had no idea was going on. I'm in a closed room with the detectives. The police are outside with the social workers. And they show up at my mom's house at 2 o'clock in the morning to see my son, right? My 20-month-old son. My mom lets them in. They check the refrigerator, they check the water, they check the lights, and then they tell my mom to wake up my son. And she does. They take off his clothes, look for any signs of abuse. And the social worker tells my mom, there's no signs of abuse, that we're taking him. And my mom is like, no, you're not. And she says, if you don't give him to us, we're going to arrest you. 3 police officers standing right there, and they don't say anything. And my mom is like, if I go to jail, do I take him with me? And she says, no, he's going to go to foster care. And you're not going to be able to care for him because you're going to have a criminal record. So my mom is like, what do we do? It's 2 o'clock in the morning. My dad is calling lawyers. Of course, nobody's answering their phone. And they call back up. They call more police officers. Now we know that this is all like intimidation, basically, right? Psychologically. And my mom says at that point, my son was starting, to notice all the commotion. And she said she thought in her mind it would be less traumatic for him if she handed him over to the social worker as opposed to him being ripped out of her arms.
Mm-hmm.
So at 2 a.m., my son gets taken, gets put in a car with a stranger, complete stranger, at 2 o'clock in the morning. And they drive off in the middle of the night. They give my mom a business card and said, contact us later. We'll be in touch. And we don't know where they're taking my son, why we're going, what the heck is going on. We know nothing. And I'm at the hospital with the detectives, right? This was happening before I knew anything about it. My husband knew what was going on. But as soon as I finished with the detectives, he told me go to bed. And when I wake up, it's about 10 o'clock in the morning. And my husband is just staring at me, this blank stare on his face. And my first instinct is to look at the baby, like he's there, he's alive, like what happened? And he says, they took David, which is my 20-month-old son. And I'm like, what do you mean they took David? Where? Who? They lied to me, like what? And she said, yeah, that's not what happened. So, I call my mom, she tells me everything that happened. And I start calling lawyers. I had to call about 10 different lawyers until I found one that would take a CPS case. Most of the lawyers like, nope, we don't deal with CPS, try this guy. Nope, don't deal with CPS, try this guy. And I got the lawyer. He told me, yeah, come see me this afternoon. And at this point, I still don't know where my son is, right, where David is. I go to the attorney. I'm like, where the heck is my son and where do I go get him? And he told me, like, sit down. You have no idea what you're in for. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They can't just come in here and take my son. And he's like, yes, they can. And that's where the famous line comes, Gina. I'm like, what happened to the Constitution? What happened to innocent until proven guilty? What about the nanny? And he says, this is family court. They don't follow constitutional law. And I'm like, what other law is there? Like, they can do whatever they deem is in the best interest of the child. And I'm like, how is this in the best interest of my child? To take him at 2 o'clock in the morning to God knows where. And, I just start ranting and he pounds his fist on the table. And he's like, listen to me. You are facing 15 years in jail and $100,000 bail if they decide to charge you. You are not getting your children back. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't do this. And he's like, I believe you. Doesn't matter. Like, if I go into that courtroom and I tell the judge to give these kids back to you, they're going to pull this up. And he shows me the criminal investigation. And they're going to say, Your Honor, this woman is under criminal investigation. You are placing the children at risk by giving them back to her. And if that happens, they are under 2 years old, nonverbal. They can be legally adopted by the foster family if the case lasts longer than 6 months. And they will make it last longer than 6 months. And I am just like, I'm floored, right? I'm like, my jaw's probably on the table. I'm like, what are you telling me? Like, what is this? And he says, your saving grace is that your husband was out of state when this happened. So legally speaking, he wasn't at the crime scene. We're going to ask the judge to give sole custody to your husband. That way they don't even risk going into foster care. But if that happens, if that is granted, they're going to kick you out of the house. So at that point, I'm like, what choice do I have? I told him, yeah, I don't care what you do to me, leave my kids alone. So that was our strategy. 72 hours later, we have the hearing. And I'm still not believing this, right? I'm still thinking, there was some miscommunication somewhere. The judge is going to see this, right? The judge is going to ask what happened. Where's the nanny? What, something. And when I get in that courtroom, the nanny is not there. The police aren't there. The social workers aren't there. The detectives aren't there. The only person on trial is me. And I got a room of lawyers on this side representing my children, whom I've never met. And then I have my lawyer on this side. And, the proceeding starts, and I'm just waiting for the judge to ask me what happened. Next thing I hear, Ms. Bruno, do you have any objections? I look at my lawyer. I'm like, what? Like, any objections to the children being placed with their father? I said, no. Mr. Bruno, do you have any objections? No. Okay, children will be placed with their father. Ms. Bruno, you have 24 hours to vacate your home. You are court ordered to take child abuse classes, parenting classes, individual counseling, and a caseworker will be contacting you regarding visitation. Court is adjourned. So within 15 minutes, right, they took everything away from me. And I remember being in that hallway crying with my mom. My attorney is there. He's like, I told you this was going to happen. I'm like, I know, but I don't believe that this is what's happening.
Yeah.
So they kicked me out. I gathered all my stuff out of my house. I had to sleep in the hospital because I had nowhere to go. They wouldn't let me stay with my mom because my mom was now part of the investigation as well. After my son went home from the hospital, I had to go to a hotel where I stayed about 10 days in a hotel, paying like $5,000 a month for a hotel. Eventually, my church, thank God for churches, you guys in churches that hear a case like this, they took me into their home and they supported me along the way. And I can't tell you, how important that community is to be heard, to be supported, because the system will make you feel absolutely crazy. Right? Like you're the criminal, like you
Yeah.
did something to deserve this. And I know I hadn't. I know I didn't. But the whole thing of me being out of the home was 40 days and 40 nights. On the 40th day, we had a hearing. My attorney told me to not bother coming. Don't waste your time. I won't waste mine. Like the status of your case hasn't changed. The criminal investigation is still going on. Nothing is going to happen today. And I told my husband that, like, he's been right about everything so far. And my husband's like, I don't care what he says, we're going. I'm like, fine. Get in the car, go to the courtroom or the courthouse. He calls me about 2 hours later and he says, where are you? Like, I'm at the courthouse. He's like, I'm on my way, might be able to do something today. And hangs up on me. So I start texting everybody. I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. Something's going to happen. Everybody start praying. He walks in, comes down the hallway. I go hug him and he pushes me away. He's like, don't hug me. I can't make you any promises. I'm like, okay. Goes into the courtroom, comes back out with a stack of papers. Initial this, sign this, initial this. I have no idea what I'm signing. What I'm initialing, I'm just trusting God and my attorney at that point. And it goes on for about 3 hours. Comes back out with a stack of papers, 700 pages. And he says, okay, so here's the deal. If you're willing to sign this document the way it is written, there's nothing in here admitting guilt. There's nothing in here saying that you did this. The things I had you initial, the things I crossed out, all those things they've agreed to, which I knew that were inconsistent or were not truthful, they've agreed to remove those from the record. If you agree to this today, they will let you go home. And at that point, 40 days, remember, my baby is 7 weeks old. I feel like I'd missed half his life at that point. And if they told me to chop off my leg, I would have done it. So I signed those papers and my attorney told me, like, I've been doing this for 23 years and I have never seen them let anybody go home before trial. Like, you definitely have a higher power working for you. I said, yes, I do. Amen. Thank you, Jesus. So I went home that day. The case remained open for another 6 months, where I was still court ordered to finish the services, right, which is the child abuse classes, the parenting classes, the individual counseling. Social worker would make appearances to our house for the next 6 months. And at the end of the 6 months, it was her recommendation that the case be closed. So the case was closed, able to move on, but I had to fire up my butt now. I'm like, these people can't get away with it. I was fortunate enough to have the attorney, to have my husband, to have my family, to have my church, to get my children back. I was in that child abuse class where there was about 30 of us in that child abuse class. And I think 3 of us got our kids back. And nobody in that child abuse class had intentionally abused their child. There were playground accidents, there were disgruntled exes, there were rebellious teenagers posting naked pictures of themselves and being disciplined. I mean, you name it, right? Nobody had intentionally abused their child. And that's when I started digging into the federal funding, into the adoption stuff, into all the laws. And I just knew I have to do something. God did not let me witness this. God did not give me the victory over this for me to be silent. Like, I need to share this. I need to make people aware, especially in the church, especially the Christian community. People have no idea this is happening. I grew up in church where foster care is like the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And I'm like, nobody knows what is happening behind the scenes of this crazy system. So I found a civil rights attorney, Sean McMillan, and he's in California. And this is all he does is sue CPS. We were able to get discovery. We have the text messages from the social worker, from the supervisor, from the police officer. We have the medical records. We have all this stuff that we found out during discovery. And they ended up settling with us in December of 2018 for $1.49 million. So, it was a win. No amount of money can ever give us back what we lost. But I was able to pay off our debts. We were $250,000 in debt at that point with lawyers, with medical. We lost our business, right? We almost lost our house. We were renting at the time, but we were late on everything. We were living off of credit cards. Mm-hmm. And again, thank God my husband had a stable job. Thank God we had good credit. Thank God we did have credit cards that we could live off of. And that is not the case for, I would say, 99% of the families that aren't involved in this.
Right. Rachel, was that a federal lawsuit or was that
It was federal.
Okay, so people can go and look up your lawsuit and they can use that as an example, right?
Yeah. Bruno versus Cola. Right. So we sued Los Angeles County, Orange County, the Children's Hospital, the Sheriff's Department, Social Services, and all the individuals associated with the agencies. And it was based, 1983, is that what they call it? A 1983 case, Manel case.
Yep.
Right, based on the violation of the Fourth Amendment and 14th Amendment. The Fourth Amendment, warrantless search and seizure. Mm-hmm. The 14th Amendment, the government interference. And, we found out when they took my 20-month-old son into custody, they took him to a county children's shelter where he stayed there for 48 hours. And during those 48 hours, they gave him 13 vaccines without our consent.
Oh my gosh.
They forced him through a full skeletal survey without our consent. They gave him an anal wink test, which is for allegations of sexual abuse when there weren't even any allegations of sexual abuse. And again, I wouldn't know any of this had I not sued them. Right? All this stuff is sealed until the child is 18 years old for the protection of the child, when really it's for their own protection, right? So they can cover their own butts about what they've done, and the parents are clueless about what actually happened to their children, right? As if, no, the removal isn't traumatic enough. What happens behind the scenes over there, most parents don't even know what their children have been through.
Wow. And you say it's sealed until they're 18, and then good luck trying to get your records anyway after you're 18.
Right.
It's redacted and, just not
yeah. Even when our civil suit, we got all the discovery files, right? And it came like 70% redacted. We had to make about 3 motions to the magistrate to unredact it because they kept saying it contained, third-party personal identifiable information that didn't need to be there. And my attorney's like, nope, yes, we do need to know everything.
Absolutely. I wanted to bring up the Fourth Amendment search and seizure without a warrant at your mom's home.
Yeah.
You would think that a police officer would be like, we're really not supposed to be doing this. Yeah. But this is the thing, Rachel, where I talked about this recently. I have a few friends that are retired cops now, and I was asking them about this. I said, did you guys ever have to show up at someone? And they said, yes. And I said, well, you're kind of in a catch-22 situation. Like, I get it. Like, that's a difficult situation. And my one friend was telling me, he says, half the time we didn't know what the heck was going on. We're just called to show up at a house, stand on the porch, and make sure things go smoothly. He says, we're under the assumption that this is all being done through the court, and we have just our part to play, and then we, protect the child. And when I was telling him all this stuff and telling him all the stories we've had and all the people that have gone through this, he was dumbfounded. He's like, I don't understand. Like, why would that happen? Like, he says, why would, for instance, like with medical kidnapping, I told him, about doctors are in on some of this stuff and the child abuse pediatrician stuff. And he's just like, I don't get it. Why would they ruin their whole career? Like, and take a chance. I'm like, because there's no oversight. No one is watching this stuff. Yeah. Like, it's all in the dark. I said, and it's really hard to get the records and all this stuff, so your story kind of goes along with that. Well, definitely goes along with it. And so, when you get your the coalition together, And I know you're probably going to have a lot of Zoom meetings and webinars and all that stuff.
Yeah.
To me, I really felt like after talking to a few of my friends about this, and it's been multiple conversations, it does seem like there needs to be something with police officers. I mean, they're supposed to be serving and protecting their communities, not the CPS worker on the porch.
Right.
And if someone, I can only imagine if you showed up at one of their houses and homes and took their child, what would happen? Like it doesn't make any sense. And I don't know. I don't like painting with a broad brush and saying cops are bad and they're crooked.
Right.
And of course there's bad cops. Yes, there's bad doctors, bad cops, bad lawyers, bad garbage men. I don't, in every profession there's going to be bad seeds.
Yeah.
But it does seem like there should be a standard protocol across the board, across the United States of America, that says there has to be a warrant. I mean, that's just like common sense.
Right.
Like, you don't just get to show up and take people's children from them at 2 a.m.
Well, I mean, again, that's the Constitution, right?
Mm-hmm.
That says you require a warrant. And when we did our discovery, when we did depositions, we deposed the police officer that went to my mom's house. And he basically says, he was told that he was there to keep the peace. That was his sole duty at my mom's house. And he said that when it comes to child welfare cases, social services are the quote unquote experts. So they go by whatever social services tells them.
My friend said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And social services can use, language, legal language, like exigent circumstances to remove a child without a warrant. And that's what they did in my case, right? They say due to the severity of the injury of the baby, of the sibling, that automatically puts the other sibling at risk. So
see, but it doesn't. I mean, gosh, I don't know.
I know it shouldn't be.
That's ridiculous, because if you really think about it, like CPS, what kind of power do they have? What kind of authority do they have over the court? Like, it's a court order has to be mandated. You can't just show up at someone's house. I mean, what if I show up with a badge around my neck, a lanyard, and say I'm a social worker and I'm the authority here? Like, that's ridiculous. That doesn't work anywhere.
Yeah.
It's because the people have given them that authority.
Yeah.
Like we literally have we put social workers on a pedestal, and everyone has assumed that they're doing a good job, and nobody realized that they were actually falsifying records, lying under oath, and taking children. So it's we, the people, that have put them on this pedestal. Like, they don't have this authority. You can literally tell caseworkers to get off your property, and they have to get off your property. But if the people don't know that, then they can't tell them. So that's the problem. That's literally why we're having to do these shows, is to educate the people to say, know your rights. But also, Rachel, wouldn't you say that it's best not to speak to police officers, because I feel like they pretend like they're your friend and they're just there to get information.
Yeah.
And then they will use that against you in court.
Absolutely.
So I would say also do not speak to police officers. If they come, like I've been there at a client's house. Chris Stevens is a client of ours.
Yeah.
And I literally had to tell him, stop talking. These people are not your friends.
Mhm.
And he just thought, I'm innocent, it'll be fine. They don't care that you're innocent. All they want is to get information. And the more you're talking, you're giving them information. So plead the fifth, don't talk.
Exactly. Like I was going to say, the Fifth Amendment also exists for a reason.
Exactly. Yep.
Right. And if I had to go back to that hospital room, right, that hospital room that night, when the police officer asked, Miss Bruno, can I speak to you? Today, I would say, I am more than willing to cooperate, but not until I speak to my lawyer. And that's that. I would not have said anything else. I would not have spoken to the social worker about my son, right? About anything. I would not have said anything. And you know how it is, Sylvia. They will come with their little psychological tricks. They will pin you up against the wall. They're like, but why aren't you cooperating? Right? If you're innocent, we're here to help you. Why don't you want to talk to us? We're not going to do anything. You're not, this isn't an interrogation. It's only an interview. They try to do so many things to get your guard down and talk. And, I would take it even a step further as far as medical kidnapping. Another project I'm working on my organization is the CAP list, right? The child abuse pediatrician. And they're in every single children's hospital across the country. They get paid by DHHS. And not directly, but the hospitals get grants for having a child abuse pediatrician on staff.
Wow.
Okay, there's no such specialty in medical school as child abuse pediatrician. There's no such thing.
Okay. So,
Okay, you're just a regular
it sounds
pediatrician.
so stupid that we have to talk about this. Like, this is
Yes.
so. Sylvia, do you
And they
remember the
will
program
take-
we did with Danny,
Yeah.
and you guys had to go through the terms and vocabulary?
Right.
words? I feel like this is like part of that. It's
Oh
just
yeah.
so stupid.
Oh yeah. We got to go back to mother, father, son, daughter. What is a woman?
Oh my gosh. Right.
You know?
Yeah. So the child abuse pediatricians, they will take, I think, I don't know, it's like a 6-week course on, how to diagnose child abuse. And they have to take a test at the end of this course, right? Which has a 100% success rate. Tell me any professional test,
Oh my God.
be it the bar exam, a CPA, real estate, that has 100%
Yeah.
pass rate. So, but we have the child abuse pediatricians. They do not identify themselves in the hospital as a child abuse pediatrician. They will just come like they're doing their regular rounds and say, I'm the pediatrician on call or whatever it is. And they will start asking you a bunch of questions. And again, they're like law enforcement, right? They're building a case against you. They're the ones who are going to write the report to the court, to family court. But you don't know that, right? You're pouring your heart out to this doctor. You're assuming HIPAA laws apply, right? You're assuming, they are looking out for your patient, the child's best interest, and not quasi law enforcement investigators.
Mm-hmm.
But that's exactly who they are. So, when parents contact me and they're like, I'm scared to take my child to the emergency room, like, how do I prevent this? What do I do? I tell every parent, go to your local children's hospital's website, right? Go in the search, look up staff, look up child abuse team, child abuse pediatrics, something to that extent, and see who the people are on that team. They're usually listed, they're very proud of who they are.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, if God forbid, you go to the emergency room and you see one of these faces, do not talk to them. Because anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law.
We had Ryan Ralston on last week, and we were talking about child abuse pediatricians and also CHOA, Children's Hospital of Atlanta and stuff like that. And my suggestion would be don't even go to a children's hospital.
Right.
Like, I just think that's one of the most dangerous places for you to bring your child. If you're a young parent and you're bringing your kids there, it just seems like you're easy prey for them, easy pickings. And
it is one of the last places. Like, go to the urgent care first, go do other stuff first.
Absolutely. I think about all of us on this screen are not criminals.
Right.
So, if I went to the hospital and they started asking me questions, I'm a pretty open book. I've always been that way. So, I would probably have been that guy to be like, oh yeah, ask me anything you want, and I'd be just answering the questions thinking I'm innocent. Of course, they're going to clear me. Like, this is, just protocol, whatever. But now I would never give them the time of day. I would just be like, no, you'll be talking to my lawyer.
Yeah.
Like, I would be on the offense, not rude, not obnoxious, but
Right.
I would definitely be very on the offense rather than defensive, just playing, back and saying, okay, this is going to be fine. I just don't trust them anymore. I've just heard the story too many
crazy.
times.
And my kids now are 11 and almost 13, and I'm like, I have to sort of, when you go to the doctor, these are the things that you say. These are the things that you don't talk about.
Jeez, how sad. You got to coach your kids on, oh my gosh, it's just pathetic. So pathetic. So, Rachel, thank God you got your children back. Literally, thank God. Just amazing. You said you were one of 3 people out of 30 in that. Jeez, oh Pete, that is just horrible. And have you had contact with any of those other people that were in that group after? Yeah.
I do. One of them, she had our children, our babies were the same age. She had a baby, but he was born premature and he fractured a tibia and took him to the emergency room. She didn't know why the baby broke the tibia, so, child abuse. But she took her son to the same hospital that I did. She had the same child abuse pediatrician that I did. She had the same judge that I did. She had the same attorney that I did. She had the same caseworker that I did. And her parental rights were terminated. Yeah. And
No rhyme or
she,
reason.
for no rhyme or reason, I mean, I will say, because we did have the same attorney and we were in the same child abuse class, and I would talk to my attorney and my private investigator and with her. And, she would always fight with the social workers.
Mm.
And, Sylvia, you could probably speak to this, like, just don't.
Yeah. I mean, it like you cannot make an enemy of the caseworker because they will use it against you and they will put it in there. Like they will just, and it's so weird how they just pull up random stuff and write about you. But yeah, you do need to be civil. You do need to uh, be respectful to them, even if they are, even if you know what they're doing, because your child's life is literally in their hand.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say don't make an enemy of the caseworker. Um,
Yeah.
just
And I
don't.
mean, I think that was really the fundamental difference between my case and her case is that she would just, keep fighting and cussing at them. And I'm just like, whatever the heck you need me to do, I will do it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that was my attorney. He's like, you do whatever the
Mhm.
expletive these people tell you to do.
Yeah.
Because like Sylvia just said, they have your child's life in their hands and you have no idea how vengeful these people are.
Yeah.
Your attorney had been through the ringer so many times that he obviously, he understood that.
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's just, gosh, this always tears me up because you have to be honest, right? I mean, as believers, honesty is kind of very important with God for us. And so, like, I almost feel like there's times. I remember this one story. I think it was during World War II, where Christians were taking in some of the Jews and keeping them like in their cellars or in basements and things like that, hiding them from the Nazis when the Gestapo came around. And they had to lie, of course. No, we don't have any Jews here. What are you talking about? And and that's always been like, that's a hard thing. But the Bible makes it clear that we are to protect life at all costs. So
Right.
a lie in this case is protecting life, which supersedes the law, right? Which would be,
Yeah.
thou shalt not lie. So
Yeah.
I think like that would be easy for me, but it's hard like when they'd be asking, if they were asking me questions, like I would just I just like would be spitting out truth, and sometimes I would probably have to just say either lie or just not say anything, and I think that would be
Right.
the hardest part for me personally.
They kept
And
trying to pin me with postpartum depression.
hmm,
Right. So the social worker would come to my house, would come to my visits. I had supervised visits. And my attorney, because I had a criminal case as well, he had already pled the fifth for me. Right. So told the social workers, and everybody else, you are not allowed to talk about the case. Right. You should not be asking her questions regarding the case. And this postpartum thing, was what they were going to try to use against me. And the social worker, so how are you feeling? This is very hard on you. I'm sure this is very hard. I'm like, yeah, it is. And again, you're trying to measure everything that comes out of your mouth. And, I'm sure this is stressful. And I'm like, yes, but I'm okay. I'm okay.
wow.
And she's like, did you ever have postpartum depression? And I didn't connect the dots. I didn't think that had anything to do with the criminal case. I didn't know. So I told her no. And she's like, well, do you have an official diagnosis? And I'm like, no, like you want my doctor to diagnose me with something that I don't have? Right? I'm like, no, I don't have any documentation. So fine. And my lawyer, he's like, after every single visit with a social worker, I want you to send me an email and brief me, right? Tell me the minutes of everything that you said, what the interaction, what time, everything. So I wrote in the email, she asked me about postpartum, and he nearly bit my head off. He's like, I told you, do not talk to these people. Nobody here is your friend. Okay. The only friend you have is me, and that's only because you paid me. Like, okay. But then,
I
like you
love it.
said, I'm like, how
I
the heck do I answer that? And I talked to my private investigator. My private investigator was like my savior during this whole thing. I mean, he was a much older man in his 70s, experienced retired FBI, DEA, and he's worked with this bully attorney that I had for years. And, he's like, that's just the way he is, right? He has terrible bedside manner, but he will fight for your family like nobody else. Okay, so if he makes you cry, call me. So I would call him and I'm like, how the heck do I answer these people then? Right? Am I just gonna stare at them and say nothing? And he says, anytime they ask you something, you respond to them with another question. That usually catches them on guard, or off guard, right? They're not expecting. And I'm thinking like Jesus did that with the Pharisees, right? Every
I was
time they
just
would
thinking the
ask
same
him
thing.
something, he would respond with another question.
Yeah, interesting.
So that was
It's
the
funny.
strategy.
That's a great strategy, actually. It's funny. I don't know your lawyer, but I already have a love-hate relationship with him.
Yes.
I love this guy, and then I'm like, what a jerk.
Yep.
But
Yep.
that's funny.
No, I've made
But he,
many referrals to him, but I always tell the people, I'm like, look, he's gonna make you cry. Okay. He's gonna like bite your head off, but that's just the way he is. Don't take it personal. And now I take on my private investigators. Well, if he makes you cry, you call me and I will I will walk you through it.
you almost wonder. I mean, like that's his professional face, right? But I wonder
Yeah,
if
right.
behind the scenes, if he's like really soft and he just has a heart for families, like
He
it's
is.
got to get to you. I mean, when you see it time and
Yeah.
time again, there's no
Yeah.
way that doesn't affect you personally. It's
Yeah.
just impossible on both sides, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people on the other side are they're guilt ridden, but
Yeah.
they've just buried it. Like the Bible talks about, we suppress the truth and unrighteousness. So they just keep
Yeah.
pushing it down, saying, well, it's my job. I got to get a
Right.
paycheck,
I'm
right?
just
So
doing
they
my
just,
job. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's probably what's going on with many of them.
Yeah.
But at some point, I mean, if you have a conscience, like I just don't know how you sleep at night.
Right. I mean, most, people say there are good social workers out there, and I'm like, I know there are. And most good social workers I know leave the system within like 1 to 2 years because they can't handle this.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. Sylvia's talked about the turnover many times, and I think the turnover, the biggest part is that they're just like, I can't do this. Like this is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I thought I was getting in to help families, and I'm destroying families.
Right. Yeah.
Rachel, how old were you when that happened? I'm not supposed to
Oh
ask.
gosh.
Ask
11 years
a
ago,
woman
I
her
was
age.
34.
Okay, so you're a young woman, young mom, right? You're trusting the systems that are in place.
Right.
I mean, who wouldn't, right? I mean,
Yeah.
now I will say this. I think people are probably more guarded since the COVID nightmare
Yep.
that happened. But like, I think for the most part, these are professionals. They know what
Yeah.
they're doing. They know what's best for the child. And
Right.
so I would have thought that myself probably 10 years ago, just until I started, looking into things myself. But
Yeah.
I can't imagine like a single mom, because we've had plenty of single moms come on the show,
Yeah.
and they're in a situation where, I mean, first of all, they're terrified because their son or daughter is in, some kind of trauma. Something's going on with the baby. And then all of a sudden they're in the spotlight for being a criminal and an abuser. And
Yeah.
I mean, I've always tried to think, like when I'm interviewing them, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, my gosh, like how do you process that
Yeah.
with both sides of your brain? Like, well,
Yeah.
you're still a mom, number one, and then now you're being accused of something, and do you get defensive? Do you get mad? Like, I don't know what the emotional state is. Everybody's different, but
Yeah.
I mean, mama bears, the claws come out usually.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Well, I mean,
experience.
I've seen you're screwed if you do, you're screwed if you don't.
Mhm.
Right? If you react, then you're mentally unstable, right? You're emotionally unstable. If you don't react, which was my case, they're like, mom is not exhibiting the normal symptoms of a grieving mother. Like I was too composed for their liking.
See, they got you coming and going. There's just,
Yeah.
and they know it. Like it's designed to be that way. The questions are the interrogation, and I'm
Yeah.
your friend and all. Like it's
Yeah.
just, it's a setup. It's like the biggest frame job.
It is. And, me thinking I'm like the least likely person, right? Like the stereotypical people that we think of in child abuse investigations,
Mhm.
the drunk, the drug addict,
Right.
the homeless, whatever. And, I'm like, I have an MBA, we have our own business, we've been married for 20 years, we have never had any kids, I don't drink, I don't smoke. I mean, the worst thing I've done is a speeding ticket, right? So even that, when the police come to investigate you or come to question you, I'm like, there's no way they're going to think I did this, right? Me? Like, I know, they know. And unfortunately, kind of makes you eat some humble pie at the same time. I said it in one of my Instagram posts with the Patterson case. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the Patterson case and their medical kidnapping, and that these were perfectly fine, upstanding citizens, right? A nurse, the father, like, had nothing. And they've been fighting for 4 years after 13 medical experts told the courts that these children had a bona fide medical condition. Right. And when I go on podcasts, people always ask me, so how did you get your children back? What did you do? And I'm like, I honestly don't know. Right. To this day, I don't know. I am not better than any of the parents that I've seen in the system. I'm not a better parent. I'm not a perfect parent. I mean, I don't know. Right. It was the grace of God that kept me going through the system. I mean, of course, practically, I did have the resources. I did have a good attorney. I did have all that stuff. But then again, I go back to my friend who had the same attorney, the same judge, the same hospital, I mean, the same everything, and had her parental rights terminated. So, I mean, it's really subjective, right? It really, the luck of the draw, what judge you get, what social worker you get, what police officer you get, and how you react on those first initial minutes.
Yeah.
Where, your life is just like flashing before your eyes and you have no idea what's going on. It's crazy that one moment in time can just ruin a family for life.
You said a word that is absolutely terrifying. And I don't know if you said it, but you said subjective. That is absolutely terrifying. If you're sitting in a courtroom where it's supposed to be objective, they're supposed to hear evidence from both sides, right? Like that's scary.
It
But
is.
that's so true.
Terrifying. And again, go back to my case, a foster family, right? Who is being interviewed to take in my children. A social worker, would tell this family, we have a 7-week-old baby who suffered a cranial fracture in the care of his mother. And we have his 20-month-old son, brother. Will you please help this family, right? Will you please help these babies? And of course, anybody in their right mind would say yes. Get that witch away from these kids.
Yep. Only you're saying it very nicely.
Right.
The caseworker would be like, these kids have been beat by their mother. We're taking charges. And yeah, you would be painted a monster for
Right.
sure. Yeah.
Which is crazy, right? I mean, and how are the foster parents supposed to know?
Right. They're not. And so that's why they automatically. So yeah, we've created a system that's not for the people.
Yeah.
So the foster parents, I always, like, another disclaimer, like, there are good foster parents.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's many people that do it for the right reason. Their hearts are in it. And you brought up a point earlier, Rachel, that I've mentioned a bunch of times, is that I think the church in general thinks it's doing God's work. Like, they're just very naive. They haven't been informed. No, they don't have conferences on this. No one's, they're not having a Saturday get together with their congregation. Hey, let's talk about this and have some, specialists come in and some, people in the profession. Yeah. They just think, oh yeah, these kids need parents, without understanding the backstories.
Right.
And that's another thing. I just don't know where do you even begin on. I guess with your own church, maybe, I guess is probably the best place to start. But like, I mean, it's such a huge, huge mountain to overcome, because it has been in the system for a long, long time. And there's a lot of kickbacks. I hate to say it, but a lot of the churches are getting kickbacks doing this.
Yeah.
And in their minds, I would say they're probably naive. Okay. But there's always going to be the bad seeds again. So there are the ones that understand, there's trafficking going on through this system, but hey, we're getting this money, so let's just keep it under the covers and no one needs to know. So, I mean, I think that's another thing that needs to kind of be brought into the light. Sylvia, you've talked about having the body cams on social workers. Like, I think these are just like no-brainers. Right? Like, this should be like, I don't know, a top 10 list of things that need to happen, and then figure out how the heck do we do them? How do we implement them?
Yeah.
and bring awareness to it.
Well, I know here in Tennessee, Connie regularly did have a bill at one point for the
That's
body
right.
cams. And most of the legislators, the excuse was the money, the funding. How are we going to fund, X amount of body cams to make every social worker wear them?
Ridiculous. Absolutely
Yeah.
ridiculous.
And
Just
like you
ridiculous.
get what, $2 billion from
Yeah. Yeah.
DSS for
Yeah.
foster care, but you can't find them for the body cams. Okay.
Yeah. Connie sent me
They
that
could-
in a DM, and I was just like, this is so stupid. Like, I
Yeah.
couldn't even stomach reading the stuff. It's just so, like, oh, they can find money for other things, but they can't find the money for something that would help children and families. Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
which it should be their number one priority.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Yeah. So,
ridiculous.
follow the money. Always the love of money, right, is the
Oh,
root
yeah.
of all evil.
Yep.
Oh, is that
Like if I
so
had a
true?
magic wand, I would,
Hmm.
defund Title IV, and I bet you
Absolutely.
90% of our problems would go away.
It would. It's the head of the snake. Cut it off and it's done. It ends because there's no incentivization anymore. I
Right.
mean, of course, there's going to be bad stuff happening here or there, but it's
Absolutely.
going to cut it dramatically. Dramatically.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
can see, I think Connie might have been the one that was, I can't remember. I think it was Connie when she was on last time or maybe the time before. She was talking about from the time, 1997 when the Adoption and Safe Families Act passed
Yeah.
from the Clintons, and then how it just, you see it skyrocketing.
Yeah.
The removal of children, termination of rights. And it's
Right.
because that was a fast track to adoption. That was
Right.
the goal. And,
Yeah.
on the surface, though, when that was going on, I mean, I can imagine in 97, if I was reading, I'd be like, oh, this is a good thing.
Right.
It looks good on the surface because, of course, we want these children to be adopted. We don't want them
Yeah.
stuck in foster care their whole lives and group homes and all this stuff. So it
Yeah.
looks good. Even with what the First Lady Melania Trump just,
Right.
passed, that
Oh,
looks good
wow.
on the surface. Like these kids need
Yeah.
to, hey, they need to be educated. They need to move on with their lives and be successful. Well, okay, I think that's wonderful.
Right.
But guess what? There's a root problem that no one is even addressing or even thinking about.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. I'm like, what about if we didn't remove them to begin with?
Common
Right.
sense 101.
What if we helped the families that were struggling, at this edge as opposed to when they turn 18?
That's right. Yeah. And DeSantis, right? I forgot his wife's name. Same thing. They passed similar
Yeah.
type things in Florida.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know if I hate to say that these people are naive or green because I'm sorry, if you're a politician and this is, you've been elected by the people to do this job. If you were elected, that's another
Yeah.
whole story. Let's just
That's
assume you were
another.
elected. Yeah. Let's assume you were elected. It's your job to figure out what the heck's going on and where the money's going and why is the money coming in? Why is the state of Florida receiving, $13 billion or whatever it was? I forgot what it was, some ridiculous number, right? In like a 3-year period. And it's like, you have to be like, that's a lot of money.
Right.
Like you would think like if you're I don't know, if you have any kind of morals at all as a politician, that you would look into some of that stuff. And
Yeah.
there are good people that are doing that, I'm sure. But like in general, it just seems like no one cares. Hey, we're
Yeah.
making a lot of money. That'll help fill some potholes and I can play some
Yeah.
more golf.
Yeah. Well, they're bureaucracies, right? All their
Hmm.
bureaucracies, I mean, they depend on the money. I think Connie said at one point that the states depend, like 40% of their budget is funded through the Title 4E money, through the federal fund.
That is insane. That's absolutely insane. So it's on the backs of children, families.
Yeah. Yeah. So their budgets, and as far as them knowing or not, I mean, all these times I've gone to DC, after year 2 or 3, because we kept meeting with the same people over and over, they knew. But like our first meetings, they had no idea, what the heck we were talking about. They were like, you've heard about ASPA, and like they're reading, about Title 4E and that, Social Security Act, and that the states get federal funding for every child that is removed. Like, what they do? Aren't they supposed to be doing reunification? Aren't they supposed to be doing services? I'm like, yeah, they're supposed to, but they don't.
Wow.
And they're
So
like, this is crazy. And we're like, yes, it is.
so when you see the same people and you guys go back to DC, how do they receive you?
They are usually very nice. I mean, we've had very nice people and, very understanding. We usually take a group of people with lived experience right? So they tell their personal stories. And I mean, a lot of times people are in tears during those meetings, including the legislative aides. And, they're young, they're like in their 20s, just graduated from college, and
That's
they're
right.
like, what the heck did I get myself into? Right? But we present them with the bill. In our federal bill, we still have it, the Advocates for Families Act, which was reintroduced this year by Barry Moore to the House. Yeah, to the House of Representatives. It hasn't been put up for a vote yet because he wants us to have at least 70 co-sponsors to the bill. And that's when we're going to DC speaking to all these same people over and over again. They love the bill. It's a great idea, but nobody wants to be the first one to bite. They're like, do you have any other sponsors? We're like, no, that's why we need you. And they're like, oh yeah, this sounds awesome. Let us know when somebody else co-sponsors, and then maybe we can work with them and, give us the runaround. Like, nobody wants to be first.
No, because if they know it's 40% of the budget, who
Right.
would want to be on that bill, right? I mean, like that's gosh, how I don't know. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
I just think like I cannot believe this happens in America. Like it is
Right.
so. There's a lot of like evil in this country, but this is at the top of the list. I'm sorry. Like I don't even understand how this isn't like front page news every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And, I want to get to the federal stuff. We need the legislation, but, parents on the ground level, like you said, we the people need to know our rights. We need to support other parents that are going through this. Every time I post something, of course, there are the people online. They did something. They can't just take away your kid. I'm like, yes, they can. So we got to keep beating that drum until people will understand what is behind the curtain in family court with CPS, with all this stuff going on. And I mean, a lot has happened in the past 10 years, right? Like Sylvia said, when we started, nobody could talk about this. Nobody would believe you. Right? And even Sean McMillan, his first case with CPS was Deanna Fogarty, Miss California.
Yeah.
And he did not do CPS law at that time, did not do family law. He was doing business law, like contract law. And Deanna calls his office one day. His dad answers the phone. And Deanna is on the phone saying, I have this case. They're trying to take my kids away. I need a lawyer. Will you take my case? And Sean's dad was like, what? They're taking away your children? What's your name? What's your phone number? Yes, we'll get back to you. Sean comes home and his dad is like, hey, a lady called. They're taking away her children. You need to call her back. And he's like, what? I don't do this kind of law. And he's like, you do now.
Fire.
So even Sean back then, he's like, this lady's crazy, right? There's no way that they're taking away her children, that the social workers are lying. Like there's something wrong with this woman. He's like, whatever, I'll give her a call and see, how crazy she is and tell her to go somewhere else. And he said he starts talking to Deanna. He's like, this woman is normal, a very reasonable person. This is what's going on. I start looking through the documents. And then Sean is like, oh my God, like, what is this? And he said at that time, Deanna's children were the same age as his children. And he said he would spend all night crying, like reading the documents and crying. And he's like, I cannot believe this is happening in the United States of America. Right. So he started digging into it and he did Deanna's case and he won $10.5 million in that case. And then from that point forward, he's like, yeah, who cares about business law? This is what I'm going to be really from now on.
Yeah, he has a great podcast. I listen every now and then.
Yeah,
and we had Sean on. I remember when we had him on, that was early on too. And I really enjoyed having him on, just picking his brain and hearing his thoughts on things. Yeah. So Rachel, before we close up, anything you want to mention or promote before we sign off?
Well, as usual, follow me, Rachel Bruno Speaks, on Instagram and on Facebook. I also have my book. It's called Fractured Hope, A Mother's Fight for Justice. That's on Amazon. And all the funds from my book go to my nonprofit. Right, so we can help these families. And, a little bit about my nonprofit. I started what I call the Beloved Fund. And that's basically a monthly subscription of $10 a month. And with this Beloved Fund, like all the money goes into these emergency situations where the families are at risk of having their child removed. So I've had cases, where a single mom, her car breaks down. She does not have $800 to pay a mechanic to fix the car, but she needs to get to work. She needs to get her children to school. She needs help, right? And she's already been contacted by social services because of truancy, because the children aren't coming. She's at risk of losing her job because she can't fix her car. So Giver of Light will, help this mom. We've paid off cars, mechanics. We have fully furnished a home after a reunification, right? The mom has been fighting for years, but doesn't have any beds, doesn't have any silverware, doesn't have any dishes, doesn't have anything. So Giver of Light to the Beloved Fund will help a family like that. I had another case where a grandma is trying to get kinship placement and she ran out of paper, ran out of printer ink, and she didn't even have money for that. Right? I mean, because these cases are all consuming. I don't think people realize how consuming it is financially, emotionally, psychologically. So, if you guys out there, $10 a month through Giver of Light, you can really make a difference at the onset, right? At the first state, so that these families don't get dragged in further into the system.
That's awesome.
Sounds like good work, Rachel. Yeah, the donate tab is right down here on the bottom of the homepage. Click on donate. There we go.
Yep.
And all the information is there. Boy, Rachel, man, I love people of action. Like Sylvia's a person of action. There's just people that they have their own lives. You have your own life. And I mean, you could have easily just walked away. You got your children back and said, okay, it was a one-off. I got my money, and you could have just left well enough alone. Right. But you saw that it could have went the other way. And you could have been that person, the other, 27 people in that room that didn't get their children back. And I think that needs to be all of our hearts. We really need to understand that family, it's God and family. If you don't have those two things, you don't have a country. It's over. It's literally game over. And, I think they've been this is something that's been very methodical. It's strategic. It's been the long game. Attacking the family, attacking the man of the house, putting the woman in the workforce, all these things, not saying that that's a bad thing, but there were movements along the way to break up the nuclear family. And, and getting God out of everything, those are the things that substantiate and drive a nation. And it's the bedrock of a nation, any good nation that lasts a long time. And God's shown a lot of grace on this country. But I do feel like this is the time of exposure and justice, and we're going to see justice. People are going to pay for what they've done. And, hopefully there's lots of kids that, guess what, people, kids don't always stay kids. They grow up and they become adults, and they become very vocal, and they're very intelligent, and they got a lot of guts and courage. And same thing with the parents that go through this. And so, God bless all of them. And I don't know. Do you have that same feeling, Rachel? Do you think things are about to kind of burst in the good way? I
think so. Yeah. I think a lot more people are aware of what's going on. And since COVID, absolutely. A lot of people, I'm from the government and I'm here to help are really scary words.
Terrifying words. Yeah. I think that was Ronald Reagan, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Worst thing you could ever hear. All right, Rachel. Well, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. I love having you on. I told Ryan he's a treasure trove of information. You are too.
Yeah.
I think I love it when Connie's on. Same thing. I love. You're are very articulate, and then also just able to convey the message. So it's very understandable and bite-sized nuggets. That's really important, because I think a lot of people in Middle America are just I don't know. I'm kind of confused by this, and maybe they just turn something like this off, right? But I think it's important that we can convey the message in simple terms, not all the legalism and all the other stuff, even though that's important. But so there's awareness. So thanks again.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for having me on. Anytime.
You're welcome. If you want to go ahead and end your meeting, me and Sylvia are just going to close out the show.
Okay. Where do I go? Just leave?
Yeah, just hit the end meeting, I think it is, or leave, whatever's on this.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Rachel.
Awesome.
Yes, I love her.
Yep. we got great people in this. What do we call it, Sylvia? Because I know everybody hates the word movement, but I can't think of another word. Justice League. Justice,
Yeah.
isn't that the? I think Justice League is the. Isn't that the like Superman and Batman and? I think that's what they
Yeah.
were called, the Justice League. Anyway, I don't know what you call it, but I always call it a movement. I don't know. But there are great people, man. Just so many people that just spend so much time when they could be on vacations with their families. They could be doing other things that they'd rather be doing that are more enjoyable, but they're ready to fight for others. And I think that's, there's no greater love for a person to lay down their life for another. That's Jesus'
Yeah.
quote.
And there's a lot of people that you can tell that are called, and that's really what it is we've all been called, and you can't deny and you can't quit when you've been called because, well, God just won't let you.
No, when God is calling on the other end of that line, the phone's ringing, you better answer. Let me just tell you.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, man, it's so important. But, all right. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us on Rumble, Foxhole, and X. We appreciate all of you. You can like, subscribe, and share. That would help in those algorithms. We definitely need that. And if, God forbid, you were dealing with this, feel free to reach out. And
Yes.
hopefully we can steer you in the right direction and keep these animals out of your house. Gosh, that gets me so mad when she was talking about the CPS worker and the cops showing up at the house, and they're just like, oh my gosh, it's so, I can't imagine the fear in your eyes, like 2 a.m. looking out and you see cops and a social, we're like, what is going on at my house? This is crazy. Like that's evil, man.
And imagine the child. So you, the parent, but the child is going to a stranger's house at 2:00 in the morning.
Oh my gosh. Or in a stranger's car and then going to a stranger's house.
Yes.
Oh, man.
It's
You know,
literal.
Our good friend Joette sent me a DM showing a kid in foster care just crying and crying. I want to go home. I want to go home. It's so heartbreaking watching that. And the lady's just like, be quiet. This is your home. And this and that. And this poor kid doesn't know what's going on. I think she was like 4 years old or something. Like,
Yeah.
heartbreaking. Anyway, all right. Thank you so much. God bless everybody. We will see you next time on. Oh, any last words, Sylvia? Sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay. I didn't want to be rude. Okay, everybody have a great night. God bless. Take care.
Insecure and left alone to defend for ourselves. We are praying to the Lord for when this nightmare is going to end. How many more sleepless nights? How much more pain and tears do we have to endure? When can I see my family or someone who cares for me? Are we not good enough? Or are we just some test rats that have to follow orders? Are we just worth $1? Or are we actually being taken care of? Our hearts are burning in pain, and tears keep falling from our cheeks. Tired of crying and having our emotions in cycles. Our voices are being empowered by the ones who have more authority than us. However, today is the day it ends. No more feeling ashamed and leaving abandoned. We are standing up tall and raising our voices high. We are a child of God, and our work has just begun. God thinks we are worth enough and worth fighting for. God has our back and no need to fear. If God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. Now one more child is going to be left alone and abandoned. Thank you, Jesus, for all you have done for us, and all glory goes to you. In Jesus' name, amen.